Hello, you're watching Much Ado About Something, and I'm Donna. Well, if you're new here, welcome, and if you've been around for a while, welcome back. Today, what I thought I would share with you is 10 of my favorite vines that's in my garden. I have over 29 different vines growing in my garden, but I'd like to share with you the top 10 today. I love vines. I love their growth habit. I love the beauty of them. I love the way they trail. I truly, truly love vines. We have less than a quarter of an acre here, this little lot that our house sits on, and I don't have a lot of land, but I grow what I can, and I grow the vines for varied reasons. I'll try to share with you when I grow them, why I grow them. Now, there's no way that I can go in depth for every vine that I have here. Each vine would be a video in itself. But what I just wanted to do was give you an overview of the 10 of my favorite vines that I have growing. It's the second day in fall, so we woke up to a 45-degree morning. I've got a sweatshirt on, and the fall of the year, it'll give you an idea of why some of the vines look like they do. And later in gardening videos, I would love to capture some of the blooms and some of the different things that are going on with these vines and share those with you in future gardening videos. But today, let's get started. Let me share with you my favorite top 10 vines that's growing in my garden. Now, without a doubt, the mother of all vines growing in my garden is this Wisteria vine. Now, there are the Asian varieties, and there's also an American variety. And what I have here is an Asian variety. I think I have the Japanese Wisteria floribunda. I don't know specifically because we foraged this vine over 25 years ago. And we've had it here for at least 25 years or more. It is invasive, and this is a toxic plant, especially the little seed pods that grow on it. The velvety, beautiful little seed pods that grow on this plant are highly toxic. Now, the Asian variety, it has fuzzy seeds, a fuzzy seed pod, and it blooms before the foliage comes out. The American Wisteria, it blooms after the foliage comes out. Donald's ladders are here. He's been trimming this Wisteria. You can see it's got a little canopy up there. The difference in the American Wisteria is non-invasive. It is poisonous, it is toxic, but it's non-invasive. The Chinese variety and the Japanese variety, the Chinese variety is Wisteria sinensis, and the Japanese variety is Wisteria floribunda. And I think I have the Japanese variety here. Now, my blooms appear before the foliage. So in the spring, when this Wisteria blooms, there won't be any foliage, no leaves, it'll just be vines hanging full of beautiful purple and white colored blooms. And those blooms will be over 12 inches, sometimes 12 inches or longer, and they are beautiful. And that's the first reason that I planted the Wisteria. It's a simple beauty in those beautiful blooms and the scent. They're highly scented, very fragrant. And the second reason I planted this Wisteria, all those years ago when Donald and I foraged for this Wisteria, we also had a friend that gave us a piece of Wisteria. They planted one at their house, and we're not sure which. I think we planted them both right here. You can see right there at the trunk how big and how long this Wisteria has been here. So first and foremost, we planted the Wisteria for these beautiful blooms that this Wisteria plant has and the fragrance. If you research and look up the beautiful pictures of Wisteria blooms, you'll understand why why anybody would want to plant it. It is very invasive. Donald works really hard to keep this under control. Right over there's the trimmings, and you can see he's trimmed it not long ago. That's why the ladders are here. You can see all of the leaves that's over there on these trimmings. He works really hard to keep this thing trimmed and keep it in our yard. After the beautiful blooms, the second reason I planted this was privacy. Our houses are really close together in this neighborhood. We're right side by side. I think we're one of the few houses in the neighborhood where the driveway is side by side. So we planted this for a visual privacy break, and it has been excellent for that. And I love the way when you walk in the gate, you've got this little secluded area, minus the ladders. They were too heavy for me to move for the video. Donald was using them to trim the Wisteria, so the ladders are still here. But you can see the Wisteria leaves a beautiful, beautiful privacy break. Over here on this side, Donald is trying to trim one that looks like a tree. So he's put more work into this one to keep it like it has a stump and keep it in a tree form. So he works hard to keep this one trimmed. Maybe you can see a little better if I back up. But this one here on the right side is more tree form, and this one on the other side just grows up its trellised fence here. I look forward to showing you that when it's in bloom. It is truly beautiful. Right beside of the #1 variety of Wisteria, the #1 vine, the mother of all vines that we have in the garden, right beside of that, on the other side of the gate, good morning, Ollie. Ollie's saying good morning, and he's whining because he wants to be petted. But right beside #2 vine is the honeysuckle vine. There's 180 species identified native to North America and Eurasia. Now the scientific name is Lonicera. Now the honeysuckle, this one has a few little blooms. They're not opened up yet, but there are some blooms on here. In the early stages, you can see right here, this is a little honeysuckle bloom right here. So they just haven't opened up. They may open up still here in fall. But these honeysuckle blooms, it has hundreds of year old tradition. People take those blooms, little trumpet shaped yellow and white flowers, and they pull them out, and the little nectar on the end of that has a honey-like flavor, and that's where they get their names. It has a lovely, strong flavor. It's heat tolerant. It's beautiful in a garden. And the reason we planted this was, if you can see here, beside the gate, beside our beautiful dog, is a hedge-like fence that Donald's kept it trimmed. So we use it for privacy. And it also is beautiful and fragrant. And it's one of the few flowers that my husband has requested to grow because it brings back memories of his childhood. He loves a honeysuckle bush. You can see it almost looks like a bush growing up. It's a honeysuckle vine. You can see it intertwined here around the fence where it's been for a while. And that's #2 on our list of favorite vines that's in the garden. Now number three, and on the top 10 list in my garden is the passion flower. Now, if you're no stranger around here, you're familiar with this plant. There are over 550 species that's native to southeastern United States and Central and South America. The one that I have here is a Passiflora incarnata. It is not poisonous in small amounts and is not considered invasive. It is aggressive, but not considered invasive. You see that beautiful flower? There's not many flowers left on it right now in fall, but there are a few you can see there. Now, you know, I make a jelly out of this fruit, and I also make a tea from the blooms and from the leaves. I'm not a doctor in any way, shape, or form. I'm just sharing with you on what research I've done, and this is from Wikipedia. It's non-toxic in moderation. Its natural habitat is found in sandy soils along stream banks, roadsides, woodland edges, meadows, and pastures. It has been traditionally used to help with sleep, anxiety, insomnia, stress, ADHD, pain, anxiety, and many other conditions. The side effects of this, of course, is sleepiness, and it has a sedative effect. It can cause dizziness. It contains flavonoids, maltol, cyanogenic glycosides, and alkaloids. It should never be consumed by pregnant women, and it's used in small amounts. And that's what I use it for. I make a tea blend with it. And I make jelly from the fruits. When these fruits get ripe and fall off, then I'll collect them and I'll make jelly from them. So number 3 is the beautiful Passiflora incarnata, or the passion flower vine. Now number 4 and 5 are hummingbird vines, and there's 2 very distinct ones that we have in our garden here. This one here is called the trumpet vine. It's also called hellroot. It's invasive. It has beautiful 2 to 3 inch, sometimes bigger, orange trumpet-shaped flowers that the hummingbirds do love. This is invasive, and it's we don't really have a lot of this. We haven't encouraged this. Dawn's grandpa gave him this before he died, and so he added it to our garden. We're not sure if we're going to keep this or not. We've got to find a better place for it. That's the trumpet vine. It is toxic and it is invasive. Now the next hummingbird vine is the cypress vine, Alapomoia quamoclit. It has loose feathery foliage and it's covered with hundreds of tubular flowers. It's toxic, especially the seeds. It's not considered invasive. It is aggressive but not invasive. And you can see the fern-like foliage on it right here. It's really pretty. I don't have it showcased in my garden to its best advantage. I'm going to work harder on that next year. You can see it's grown up this pole that I had my hanging baskets on right here. And here are the beautiful little red flowers that's on it. The hummingbirds do truly love this little vine. And in my garden, I've incorporated it so that I would have natural food for the hummingbirds and not be feeding them a lot of sugar, but just have natural food. And that's why I love to have this in my garden. Number 6 is the Virginia creeper. Now these berries contain oxalate, and this can cause irritation, and it's mildly toxic. Virginia creeper sometimes gets confused with poison ivy, but Virginia creeper has leaves of 5. And there's a little sing-song that helps with that. I have an aunt that every time she sees this, we go to a specific fruit stand and little antique shop, and they have this growing up one of their posts. And every time she goes by it, she'll say, "Oh gosh, there's poison ivy." And I'll have to tell her every time, "Leaves of 3, let them be. Leaves of 5, let them thrive." So this is Virginia creeper. It does cause a mild skin irritation in some people with sensitive skin, but in general, it's just mildly toxic. It is considered aggressive. It has a very beautiful color in the fall. It's not yet turned yet because the leaves hadn't turned on the trees yet, but it's very beautiful, and it has an beautiful orange color. It's a perennial vine, and it's found throughout North America, southern Canada, to eastern Mexico and Guatemala, and it is considered invasive. Now 7 and 8 are Clematis. There are over 300 species of Clematis. They're in the buttercup family. Now this, probably the first of the species, is the Clematis jacquemani. And it's been in the garden since 1862. It's poisonous and it is not invasive. But I often share with you my garden videos, my Clematis. These are the seed pods that you're seeing here. Aren't they pretty? Look at those little fuzzy things. And those are the seed pods. The flowers on this Clematis are beautiful. There's over 300 different species. I know that I have 3 different species. One of the main ones I have is the big purple one called Nellie Moser. I value the Clematis. I love them. They add such beauty to my garden, and I even love this in the fall, these puffy looking little seed pods. I enjoy seeing those. Now here's a different Clematis. It's a wild Clematis. It's a Clematis Virginiana. It's invasive. It's called the devil's darning needles. We also called it Virgin's bower growing up. It's extremely toxic, and it has a poison that causes extreme pain. Now this has a beautiful, beautiful flower on it. White, just clusters of white star-shaped flowers. And so it's beautiful, and that's why I have it. I took a piece of it from my mom's house before she moved, and I added it to my garden, and it did bloom this year. Maybe during the spring and throughout I can do a video that shows you some of these things that are in bloom. Very little of it is in bloom at this time of the year. This Virgin's bower, or Clematis virginiana, is toxic, and it is considered invasive. Now this brings me right alongside the next vine, which is English ivy. There's 12 to 15 different species of this English ivy. I have the regular English ivy, and I have the variegated English ivy in here. It's mildly toxic. It has triterpenoid saponins and falcarinol, and it can cause mild dermatitis. It has also been shown to kill breast cancer cells. Isn't that amazing? It is considered invasive. We have it here on the left side of the house. It's a shady area, and so we have it growing here. We try to keep it off of the side of the house because it does damage buildings. And it can cause trees to be too heavy and cause them to fall over. But I think it's beautiful. If you've ever saw English ivy in a garden planted right, it has a beauty, a unique beauty like no other. So that's number 9 in the garden, and that's English ivy. And that brings me to number 10. That's the morning glory. Alpamia purpurea, common morning glory, native to Mexico and Central America. Yes, it can become invasive. And yes, it is toxic, especially the seeds. I didn't plant these morning glory. My neighbor beside of me, before she passed away, she actually bought a pack of these seeds and planted them in her garden. And they ended up in my garden. Thanks probably to a friend called the birds. The birds probably ate these seeds and dropped these here. But I've had them since she planted them. And I allow them to grow in the garden because they make me think of her, and also because they're beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. I know some people consider these weeds, and they're called bindweed. I think they call morning glory bindweed in some places. But this number 10 on the list are these beautiful morning glories. These heart-shaped leaves. Growing in amongst the hummingbird vine. You can see the tendrils. I love the tendrils that are on vines. That exotic, beautiful look. Of course, most of these morning glories I'll pull up here when I get this garden weeded to the ground and re-mulch it and get it ready for the winter. Most of these will be pulled up. But I'm enjoying them while they're here, and so are the hummingbirds and the bees. They are simply beautiful. I love the color of them. And of course, there's many other colors of morning glories, many other colors. They are toxic, especially the seeds, and they are invasive. Well, that winds up the my top 10 favorite vines that I have in my garden. Now Donald and I have 29 other, more than 29 other vines in our garden. So there should be another follow-up video, and hopefully there'll be some videos of me being able to show you when these things are in bloom and show you why I enjoy them as much as I do. Thank you for letting me share my top 10 vines in my garden with you today. Thank you for joining me, and like always, until next time.